how you guys doing? Welcome to Richar with the reactions. The Epic of Serina returns. So we reacted to the first 5 videos, and this is the next one in line. And this video is a little long, so we're going to be splitting it up into 2 different parts, today being part 1. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Let's dive on in and see what happened. I'm kind of curious.
An aurora shimmers in the night sky, and for a moment, a startling, seemingly alien realm becomes illuminated. This is the world of Serina, and despite appearances, these are not aliens, but the descendants of birds and fish. We've been following this saga for several videos, watching as, over the past 280 million years, an initial group of finches and other creatures left on a distant moon have evolved into a dizzying variety of forms. When we last checked in, this world had been flung into cataclysm, and the intelligent sea stewards had been transported away to another realm. Now, Serina is beginning to recover from the loss of its top species, although the greatest dangers and most extraordinary life forms still lie ahead. So, let's return to this world of birds, and remember to support creator Dylan Beta on Patreon using the links below.
Go check them out, guys.
Our journey begins with the rising sun. Here in the northern Soglands, the morning rays illuminate a varied tapestry of life. Thorn grazers feed upon the sodden plant matter and unleash their bellowing calls. A predatory drake vulture scours for prey from above. The towering watchtower wumpos loom over the entire scene. These species represent some of the lineages that will come to prominence in this new era. We are now in the hothouse age, and the lands of Serina have become splintered by the highest ever sea level. Though volcanism is on the decline and the end of this world looms ever closer, an atmosphere heavy in carbon dioxide means Serina has never been so warm, or so conducive to radical experimentation. On the inland floodplains, a monstrous descendant of the burrowing Birdle attempts to bring down a smaller hog lump, while a foxtrotter watches from the branches.
So wait a minute, we're not going to talk about the cataclysmic event that happened on Serina in the last video? And how Serina recovered from that?
On the ever-shifting coast, adaptability is even more essential.
Okay.
This tentacled shore scrounger and their chicks are just humble scavengers at present, but there's no telling what the future will bring. From the water emerges a sandlubber, a kind of semi-terrestrial snail. To the shore scroungers, it looks like breakfast. In the open sea, other snail descendants are enjoying a buffet of their own. The snaggle-toothed calicarna have become huge apex predators, and their preferred prey, the escardines, are also a type of marine snail. The seas belong to the invertebrates now, and as the eons pass, the gastropod's grip upon the marine ecosystem will only tighten as larger and larger species arise in the post-Ice Age waters. Some, like the spike rays, will proliferate under the murky surface of freshwater rivers in astonishingly high numbers, their body plans converging upon that of modern ray species. Another dawn comes to this brave new world. On the northern coast of Seranostra, the body of a titanic shimmer-shiner, currently the largest marine snail species, washes up on the sands. All manner of carnivores quickly descend upon this rare feast. There's no time to take turns. Eventually, night falls, and a very peculiar creature emerges to assess what remains of the carcass. It's a night creeper, another burrowing Birdle descendant that's strictly nocturnal. The early bird might get the biggest portion, but the night creeper has carved out a niche for itself, snatching up midnight leftovers. Of course, not everyone has to stress about sticking to the shadows. The omnivorous Scotland, descendants of the otter-like Skurrock birds, have arrived upon a rather imposing body plan. The future of this lineage will be very bright indeed. More familiar dynasties flourish in one of the last relatively dry biomes on Serina, the uplands. Here, members of the battering helmet
seems like Serina bounced back all right.
Clash over territory close to a herd of jumpo wumpos, a relative of the watchtower
I mean, they didn't really go into
they're
detail
far
about
from the
how it
strangest
bounced back
trunked bird
necessarily,
species
but
in this era.
seems to be
In
doing
the
alright.
southern jungles, for example, the speedy lumpalopes race through the underbrush, their facial flanges displaying bright colors to attract mates. In the polar basin, the peculiar shucklumps have turned their trunks into a means of prying open shellfish for an easy meal. The shucklumps appear non-threatening, but the lash-lip carnacles, an emergent carnivorous trunk bird, appear anything but.
Oh,
And in
wow.
this case, appearances aren't deceiving.
How could it even
The
use the
lash-lips are
teeth
ruthlessly
toward the front?
effective hunters. The hothouse age can be ruthless, but it can also be a stage for unexpectedly touching moments. Here, a mother bloblump, the most rotund of the trunk birds, has taken
These
in
are some
a
very
rather
interesting
confused
names.
foxtrotter, who's gained the scent of her young after spending time in their vicinity. Though its roaming instincts will eventually cause this foxtrotter to wander on, it is nice to be part of a family, if just for a day. Not long ago, Serina was a haven for this sort of cross-species cooperation, but the most intelligent and altruistic species have all since vanished, displaced to another world or rendered extinct by the calamity that capped off the previous era. Though deeply tragic, this loss has left behind an intriguing intelligence vacuum. Back on the coast, the shore scroungers have begun to diversify, with some new offshoots becoming increasingly social. It's a development to keep an eye on. As the hothouse age wears on, new forest ecosystems offer new ways of life. Here, a gravedigger subspecies sinks its teeth into a hapless thorn grazer. You wouldn't know it by glancing at the predator, but its distant relatives, the thalassic gravediggers, were once the most intelligent species on Serina. Elsewhere in the forest, however, a different subspecies is following more closely in the thalassic gravedigger's footsteps. This is a spire pyre, a primitive tool user who feeds on honey ants. They're a reasonably brainy bird, although not half as clever as their thalassic relatives.
I mean, it seems to be smart at using
species with a
tools.
remarkable ancestry is the screehonk. These long-necked herbivores are members of the giraffe owl, an emerging clade that, like earth giraffes, browse on vegetation that most grazers simply can't reach. But where did such an unusual clade emerge from? They're actually the distant descendants of the seraphs, who once reigned supreme in Serina's skies. One small surviving lineage, the fallen angels, found a niche scavenging on the ground, becoming increasingly well adapted for terrestrial locomotion. From this initial giraffe-owl body plan, a wide variety of unusual offshoots have emerged, and over the next several million years, this group will only become stranger. But for now, the giraffe owl have competition in the hothouse forests from the spiral siren horns, a type of thorn grazer with an elaborate nasal structure that produces eerie musical calls. These pack animals have reached impressive sizes, converging on a niche similar to
Looks
modern
like we're
bison.
back to the
Yet
three-legged
both the siren
animals
horns
again.
and the giraffe owl need to keep an eye on a new upstart. Sog gobblers are huge, aggressive creatures related to the scoblins that seem poised to follow in the titanic footsteps of Earth's sauropods. And while the sog gobblers are herbivores, the related skogers have a taste for meat as well as veggies. At 3.5 meters, or 12 feet tall, the only thing more formidable than their monstrous size is their monstrous appetite. A group of skoger can strip a small island of vegetation in just a few weeks, before crossing the water to do the same to another landmass. One might assume that nothing could rival their destructive power. But in the southern bogs, an even more ravenous force is waiting. This trunked bird is about to fall prey to the insatiable bog shoggoth, a superorganism made up of thousands of cooperating ants. Bog shoggoths are the ultimate scavengers, though slightly less aggressive than their Ice Age ancestors, the sea shoggoths. The fact that such a deadly lineage has endured into the hothouse era could spell trouble for the age to come.
Interesting.
It's a good time to be up in the branches. The forest canopy is now home to not just bird descendants, but snail descendants as well. The peculiar tree gups are derived from marine snails that became amphibious during the start of the hothouse and are now well adapted for a wooded environment. Once, the woods of Serina were tended to by the antliers, one of the first intelligent tool users who tragically faded from history long ago. Though their allies, the gravediggers, preserved their memory for a time, the gravediggers have now also disappeared from Serina's surface. But while these antliers are long extinct, one lone relative, the survivors, have endured into the middle hothouse. And as a changing climate turns marshland to
Sounds
savanna,
like a very fitting
the
name.
antliers have an incredible opportunity to adapt. We now return to the image of the aurora-lit swampland. This scene takes place in Serina's warm southern pole, where for several months the sun does not rise, and in the darkness, evolution has sired creatures never before seen. Shimmering bioluminescence, a rare sight in terrestrial organisms, lights up sections of the polar forest. On the forest floor, a digdag, another burrowing birdle descendant, scrounges for a meal. Close to this badger-sized lifeform is a fan club of smaller flyers, who are hopeful the digdag will uncover something they can steal. But all smaller lifeforms need to tread carefully, for the uncanny spook hides in the shroud of night. A member of the bat-like lineage of tribats, the spook's large ears form a dish-like structure that allows them to hone in on the slightest sound. Yet spooks are not the canniest hunters in the long dark swamp. Something very special has emerged in this darkness, a new tool user. Squab goblins are relatives of the shore scroungers that have put their tentacles to work crafting rudimentary spears. This, combined with their ability to hunt in packs, have made these tiny terrors formidable indeed. Though the squab goblins currently lack the true spark of sapience, there is enough kindling here to one day, hopefully, reignite the lost fire of advanced intelligence. And observing the squab goblins is another bright-eyed bird species. Bogglebirds are clever omnivores who have learned to act as watchdogs for the squab goblins in exchange for food. Perhaps they too will carry the torch of intelligence onwards. For now, day is breaking at last after many
That
months
reminds
of
me of
darkness,
a certain
and with
bird
the
that
light
works with
come the
wolves.
dawn walkers,
It's either
large
ravens or crows. I can't remember which
herbivores that
one.
hibernate during the winter,
Let me know in the comments
only
if you
to
know.
reawaken when the sun and the greenery returns. And they aren't the only giants who return with the sun. Huge giraffe owl called crown-crested skybreakers descend upon the forest, coming home following their long migration north for the duration of the winter. During the height of summer, the southern swamp becomes almost unrecognizable as biodiversity increases. One rather unassuming species, the aquatic river carver, acts as steward of this biodiversity. Like earth beavers, river carvers are ecosystem engineers, damming and shifting the flow of fresh water to create an optimal environment in which to raise their young. A parent must do what they can, for it's a dangerous world out there. Some of the largest birds ever seen on Serina now prowl the northern continent. Descendants of the sog gobblers, the cygnosours might technically be herbivores, but they're hardly strict vegetarians. These aggressive creatures will happily supplement their diet with small animal life should the need arise, including chicks of their own species. Though this tree will keep these hatchlings safe, with the rise of cygnosours, survival on Serina is now far more challenging. It's a good time to have allies. The superb squaboon are relatives of the long dark squab goblins that have learned to cooperate in packs and craft simple tools. And they're not the only crafty tentacle bird on the block. The unusual boomer squaboon also operates in clans, and have learned to build traps to catch fish, although the primary function of their strange tentacles is to amplify their mating call like a megaphone. Next.
Okay, let's stop there. Is it weird to say that that video felt a little nostalgic? After seeing all the different bird species from the different Serina videos and this one, I hope it doesn't feel weird. And that's how it felt for me anyway. But it was kind of cool seeing some of the other bird species that existed through the calamity. And I'm kind of surprised that Curious Archives didn't talk about it more and how Serena recovered from it. But maybe that's going to come up later in the video, I'm not sure. We do still have part 2 after all. Let me know what you thought about this video down in the comments below. And that's today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.